The cold bit through her gloves as Maya's breath turned to frost in the December air, her voice trembling, not from nerves, but from the wind that swept down Michigan Avenue like a blade. Christmas Eve in Chicago, and she was singing Sinatra to strangers who barely slowed their steps, her guitar case open at her feet collecting more snow than dollars. But before we step deeper into this memory, tell me in the comments where in the world you're listening from. Like this video so this story reaches more hearts, and subscribe to follow the next journeys. Maya Chen had been singing on street corners for 3 months now. Ever since the hospital bills started arriving in stacks she couldn't climb out from under. Her mother's cancer treatment had drained everything. The savings account, the small inheritance from her grandmother, even the fund she'd been building for culinary school. At 26, Maya worked double shifts at a downtown diner, but it wasn't enough. So she came here, to the Magnificent Mile, where the lights blazed brightest and the shoppers moved fastest, hoping someone might pause long enough to drop a few bills into her case. Her voice was good, trained once, before money became impossible. She'd sung in church choirs, high school musicals, even won a local talent show at 19. But that version of Maya felt like someone else's memory now, buried beneath exhaustion and the weight of responsibility that had settled on her shoulders the day her mother got sick. The Willis Tower loomed in the distance, its lights competing with the strings of gold and red that wrapped every lamppost. Store windows glowed with impossible luxury, cashmere scarves, diamond watches, leather goods that cost more than 3 months of her rent. Maya tried not to look at them. She focused instead on the music, on the way the notes carried above the traffic, on the possibility that tonight might be better than last night. Her fingers were going numb. She'd been out here for 2 hours and had maybe $40 to show for it. Not enough. Never enough. She didn't notice the black car that had circled the block twice, slowing each time it passed. Didn't see the man in the back seat who had pressed his palm against the window, watching her with an expression that might have been recognition or regret, or something in between. Ethan Cross had built an empire on attention to detail. At 38, he'd turned a single organic grocery store into a nationwide chain worth billions, known for fair wages and ethical sourcing in an industry that rarely cared about either. Forbes called him a disruptor. His competitors called him ruthless. His mother called him lonely, though he always changed the subject when she did. He'd been on his way to a Christmas Eve dinner, some charity gala where he'd smile at the right people and write a check large enough to make the society pages. His driver knew the route by heart, but something made Ethan look up from his phone as they passed Michigan Avenue, and he saw her, the girl with the guitar and the voice that cut through the cold like light through water. "Stop," he'd said quietly. His driver, Marcus, had pulled over without question. They'd worked together for 8 years. Marcus knew when to ask questions and when to simply wait. Ethan sat there for almost 20 minutes, just listening. There was something in her voice, not just skill, but feeling, real feeling, the kind you couldn't manufacture or buy. She sang like someone who needed the music, not the money, even though the money was clearly why she was there. When she started the Christmas song, her voice broke slightly on the high note, and something in Ethan's chest broke with it. He hadn't felt anything in so long, hadn't let himself feel anything. "Sir?" Marcus asked softly. Ethan pulled out his wallet, then hesitated. He had hundreds in there, maybe 1,000 in cash. But something stopped him from the grand gesture, the moment that would make her look at him with gratitude or suspicion or calculation. He'd seen those looks too many times. Instead, he took out 2 20s, folded them carefully, and stepped out into the cold. Maya was packing up when she saw the shoes first, expensive leather, polished despite the slush. Then the coat, charcoal gray and perfectly tailored. Then the face. He was handsome in a way that made her forget she was tired, that made the cold feel distant for just a moment. Dark hair touched with gray at the temples, sharp cheekbones, eyes that looked like they'd seen too much and were trying very hard not to see any more. He dropped the money into her case without a word, but he didn't leave. Instead, he stood there, and Maya found herself holding her breath, waiting for something she couldn't name. "You have a beautiful voice," he said finally. His voice was low, careful, like he wasn't used to giving compliments. "Thank you," Maya managed, and hated how small her voice sounded. He nodded once, a brief dip of his chin, and turned to go. But then he stopped, his back still to her, and she saw his shoulders rise and fall with a breath that seemed to cost him something. "Merry Christmas," he said without turning around. And then he was gone, disappearing into the back of a car that probably cost more than she'd make in 5 years, leaving Maya standing alone in the cold with $40 in her case, and the strange, unsettling feeling that something had just shifted in her carefully balanced world. Maya's alarm went off at 5:30 a.m. on the day after Christmas, the sound cutting through the thin walls of her studio apartment in Pilsen. She silenced it quickly, not wanting to wake Mrs. Kowalski next door, and lay there for a moment in the gray pre-dawn light, thinking about the man with the careful voice and expensive shoes. She'd made $83 on Christmas Eve, her best night yet. The 220s from the stranger had felt heavier than paper when she'd picked them up, like they carried weight beyond their value. She'd stood there after he left, watching his car disappear into the river of taillights, and felt something she couldn't quite name. Not hope, exactly. More like a question she didn't know how to ask. The diner where Maya worked sat on the corner of Harrison and Halstead, a 24-hour institution called Stella's that smelled perpetually of coffee and fried onions. The owner, Stella Kowalski, yes, related to her neighbor, Chicago was like that, had given Maya the job without asking too many questions when she'd come in desperate 3 months ago. The hours were brutal, the customers often worse, but Stella paid in cash when Maya needed it, and never commented on the circles under her eyes. Maya tied her hair back, pulled on her uniform, a mint green dress that had seen better decades, and started her shift refilling coffee cups and taking orders from truckers, night shift nurses, and insomniacs who treated the diner like a second home. She was wiping down table 7 when the door chimed, letting in a gust of cold air and a man in a charcoal gray coat. Her hand froze mid-wipe. He stood in the doorway for a moment, scanning the room with the same careful attention he'd given her on Michigan Avenue, and when his eyes found hers, something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. Or the same strange recognition she was feeling. He chose a booth by the window. Her section, though she suspected he didn't know that. And Maya took a breath before approaching, order pad in hand, trying to ignore the way her pulse had kicked up. "Coffee?" she asked, proud of how steady her voice came out. "Please." He looked up at her, and in the fluorescent light of the diner, she could see details she'd missed in the dark. The fine lines around his eyes, the slight asymmetry of his features that somehow made him more handsome, not less. "Black," she poured, watching the steam rise between them like a curtain. "You're the singer," he said, not a question. "And you're the generous stranger." Maya set the pot down. Small city. Big enough to get lost in. His fingers wrapped around the mug, and she noticed he wasn't wearing a wedding ring. Noticed, then hated herself for noticing. Though apparently not big enough. "Did you come here looking for me?" The question surprised them both. Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks. But Ethan, though she didn't know his name yet, smiled, a real smile that transformed his entire face. "No," he said honestly. "I come here sometimes, when I can't sleep. The food is terrible, but it's honest about it." Despite herself, Maya laughed. "I'll let Stella know you think her meatloaf is honestly terrible. The coffee's good, though. It's the only thing she can't ruin." They looked at each other for a beat too long, And Maya felt that shift again, like the world had tilted slightly on its axis and was waiting to see if they'd notice. I should... She gestured vaguely at the other tables. Of course. But she didn't move immediately, and neither did he look away. And in that moment of hesitation, something unnamed passed between them. A possibility, a question, a door opening somewhere neither of them had known existed. The rest of her shift passed in a strange blur. He stayed for 2 hours, ordering toast he barely touched and coffee he drank slowly, working on a laptop while she moved through her tables. But she felt his attention on her like warmth, and every time she glanced over, he was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. At 8 a.m., when her shift ended and the morning waitress arrived, Maya hung up her apron and found him waiting by the door. "I'm Ethan," he said, extending his hand. Maya, his palm was warm, his grip firm, but not aggressive. She held on a moment longer than necessary, and so did he. "Walk you out?" She should have said no, should have recognized the danger in the way her heart was beating, in the way the morning suddenly felt less gray with him standing there. But Maya had been tired for so long, had been responsible and careful and alone, and something about him made her want to be reckless. Okay. They stepped out into the December morning, breath fogging in the air between them. The city was waking up, garbage trucks grinding, early commuters hurrying past, store gates rolling up with metallic shrieks. "Can I ask you something?" Ethan said as they walked. "Why were you singing on Christmas Eve? You're clearly not..." He searched for the right word. "You're trained." Maya wrapped her arms around herself. "My mother is sick. Cancer. The bills are..." She stopped, shook her head. "I'm sorry. You don't need to hear this. Maybe I want to." She looked at him then, really looked, and saw something in his eyes that looked like loneliness. Not pity. Loneliness. "What do you do, Ethan?" "I run a company. Groceries, mostly. It's boring." It was such an obvious understatement that Maya almost laughed. Nobody wore $1,000 shoes to run a boring grocery company. "And what do you do when you can't sleep?" "Drive around. End up at diners with honestly terrible food." He paused at the corner where their paths would diverge. "Can I see you again?" The question hung in the cold air between them, crystallizing like frost. Maya knew she should say no. Knew that men like him, men with expensive cars and careful voices, lived in different worlds than women like her. Knew that hope was dangerous when you were this tired, this close to breaking. But she said, yes. And Ethan smiled again, that transformative smile, and Maya felt something in her chest that had been frozen for months begin, very slowly, to thaw. They met 3 days later at the Art Institute, Ethan's suggestion. Maya had been surprised by the choice. She'd expected dinner at some restaurant where the menu had no prices, somewhere that would make her feel small and out of place. But the museum felt democratic, full of art students and tourists and elderly couples holding hands in front of Monet's water lilies. She found him in the modern wing, standing before a Rothko, hands in his pockets. So still, he might have been part of the installation. "You came," he said when he noticed her. And there was relief in his voice that made her wonder if he'd been afraid she wouldn't. "I almost didn't." The honesty surprised her, but something about him pulled truth from her like thread from a spool. "Why did you?" Maya looked at the painting, blocks of color that seemed to pulse and breathe. "I'm not sure yet." They walked through the galleries in comfortable silence, pausing occasionally when something caught their attention. Ethan moved through the space differently than she'd expected, not with the glazed boredom of someone checking culture off a list, but with genuine attention, standing before paintings for minutes at a time, reading every placard. "My mother used to bring me here," he said quietly in front of a hopper. The painting showed a woman alone in a window, urban isolation rendered in oil. Every Sunday when I was a kid, we'd pick one painting and she'd make me tell her a story about it. Not what I saw, but what I imagined. Who the people were, what they were feeling, where they'd go when they left the frame. That's beautiful. I hated it at the time. He smiled, but there was something sad in it. I wanted to be at the park with other kids, playing basketball, being normal. She said there'd be time for normal later. That art was how we learned to see. Was she right? Ethan turned to look at Maya instead of the painting. I think I stopped seeing somewhere along the way. Stopped looking anyway. The weight of his gaze made her feel exposed, like she was the art now, being examined and considered. She should have felt uncomfortable, but instead she felt seen in a way she hadn't in years. Can I ask you something? Maya said as they moved into the next room. Why me? That night on the street, you circled back. I saw your car pass twice before you stopped. Why? Ethan was quiet for a long moment, and Maya wondered if she'd pushed too far, crossed some invisible line. But when he spoke, his voice was low and honest. Because you looked like you were singing for your life, not for the money, even though I know that's why you were there, but like the music itself was keeping you alive. He paused. I used to feel that way about something. I don't remember what anymore. What happened? I got successful. The bitterness in his voice was sharp enough to cut. I built something that mattered, or was supposed to matter. And somewhere in the building I forgot why I was building it. They had stopped in front of a small gallery of photographs. Depression-era images, faces worn by poverty and hardship, but not defeated by it. Maya studied a woman with a child on her hip, eyes fixed on something beyond the frame. My mother worked 3 jobs before she got sick, Maya heard herself say. Cleaning offices, catering on weekends, seamstress work at night. I'd come home from school and she'd be at the sewing machine, falling asleep mid-stitch. I begged her to stop, to rest, and she'd say, "Rest is for people who've arrived, Maya. We're still climbing." She sounds remarkable. She is. Maya's throat tightened. She's so thin now. The chemo takes everything. But she still asks me about my day, makes sure I'm eating, worries about me when she's the one. Her voice broke and she stopped, embarrassed. Ethan's hand found hers, warm and solid. Not pulling, not demanding, just there, present. I'm sorry, Maya whispered. Don't ever apologize for feeling things. They stood there, hands connected in a gallery full of strangers, and Maya felt something shift deeper in her chest. Not just attraction, though that was there, humming beneath her skin like current, but recognition, like he understood something about her that she'd never known how to say out loud. When they left the museum, the sun was setting, painting the Chicago skyline in shades of amber and rose. Ethan walked her to the L station, both of them moving slower than necessary, stretching the afternoon into evening. I want to help, Ethan said as they reached the turnstile. With your mother's bills. Let me? No. Maya pulled her hand from his, the spell breaking. I didn't. That's not why I told you. That's not why I'm here. I know that, but I can. No. Her voice was sharper than she intended. I'm not a charity case. I'm not some project for you to fix, so you can feel like you matter again. The words landed like slaps, and she watched him flinch. For a moment, hurt flashed across his face, raw and unguarded. Then it was gone, replaced by careful neutrality. You're right, he said quietly. I'm sorry. I overstepped. Maya immediately wanted to take it back, to explain that she was just scared, that accepting help felt like admitting defeat, that she didn't know how to trust kindness from someone who had so much when she had so little. But the words stuck in her throat, tangled with pride and fear and the exhaustion of always being the one who had to be strong. "I should go," she said instead. "My shift starts in an hour." "Maya." But she was already through the turnstile, already walking away, and she didn't let herself look back even though every cell in her body wanted to. She made it halfway home before the tears came, hot and angry and confused, because she knew she'd hurt him, knew he'd been trying to help, not to diminish her. But accepting his money would change everything between them, would make her beholden, would turn whatever was growing between them into something transactional and wrong. And the worst part, the part that kept her crying all the way to her apartment, was that she wanted to accept. Wanted it desperately. Not just because of what the money could do, but because accepting it would mean letting him in, letting someone else carry the weight for once, admitting that she couldn't do this alone. Her phone buzzed as she reached her building. A text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry. I was clumsy. But I'm not sorry I met you." Maya stared at the message for a long time, thumb hovering over the keyboard. She could end this now, protect herself, keep her world small and manageable and safe. Instead, she wrote, "Me neither," and sent it before she could change her mind. 2 weeks passed in a strange rhythm, days blurring into nights, shifts at the diner bleeding into hours on Michigan Avenue with her guitar, then home to her mother's bedside where she'd read aloud until they both fell asleep. Ethan texted every day. Small things, nothing demanding. A photo of coffee at Stella's with the message, "Still honestly terrible." A link to a song he thought she'd like. Once just, "Thinking of you." Maya responded sporadically, when exhaustion didn't swallow her whole, when she could think clearly enough to string words together. But she always responded. Couldn't seem to stop herself. They didn't see each other, though. She was avoiding him, and she knew it. And she suspected he knew it too. Because seeing him meant confronting the question that had been growing between them since the museum. What were they doing? What could they possibly be doing? It was January 8th when everything collapsed. Maya had just finished her dinner shift, was walking through the cold to the L when her phone rang. Northwestern Memorial Hospital. The words every caregiver dreads. Her mother had collapsed at home. Mrs. Kowalski had found her, called 911. They were admitting her now, running tests, the doctor's voice carefully neutral in that way that meant nothing good. Maya's hands shook so badly she could barely call a car. The 10-minute ride felt like hours, the city lights smearing past the window like paint in rain. She kept thinking, "Not yet. Please, not yet. I'm not ready." The ICU was all fluorescent lights and hushed voices and the mechanical breathing of machines keeping people tethered to life. Her mother looked so small in the hospital bed, an oxygen mask covering half her face, IVs threading from her arms like roots. "Baby," her mother whispered when she saw Maya, the word muffled by plastic and struggle. "Don't talk, Mama. Save your strength." But her mother pulled the mask aside, stubborn even now. "How much?" Maya felt her heart crack clean through. "Don't worry about that." "How much, Maya?" The doctor had told her in the hallway. Another round of treatment, more aggressive this time. Clinical trial drugs that insurance wouldn't cover. $80,000. Minimum. "We'll figure it out," Maya said, holding her mother's hand, feeling how fragile the bones had become. "No more singing in the cold. Mama, promise me." Her mother's eyes were fierce despite the weakness in her voice. "You've given enough. You've sacrificed enough. If this is where it ends, then stop." Maya was crying now, couldn't stop. "Stop talking like that. I'm just tired, baby. So tired." Maya stayed through the night, dozing in the chair beside the bed, jerking awake every time a machine beeped or a nurse came through. Dawn crept through the window, gray and cold, finding her exactly where she'd been all night, beside her mother, holding on, drowning. At 7 a.m., she stepped outside to call the hospital billing department. The number on the estimate sheet felt obscene, impossible. She'd been saving every dollar, had maybe $12,000 set aside. Even if she sold everything she owned, worked every hour the day had, it wouldn't be enough. Would never be enough. She was standing in the parking lot, staring at her phone, trying to figure out how to perform a miracle, when a text came through. Ethan. Good morning. Hope you slept well. Something in Maya broke then. The pretense of strength, the careful walls she'd built, the pride that had been holding her together. She called him before she could stop herself, and he answered on the first ring. Maya? I need help. The words came out strangled, desperate. My mother is... I don't know what to do. Where are you? Northwestern Memorial, ICU. I'm coming. Ethan, I can't pay you back. I don't know how I'd ever... I'm coming, he said again, and the certainty in his voice was the only solid thing in a world that had turned to water. 20 minutes. He made it in 15. Maya saw him stride through the automatic doors, still in running clothes like he'd left mid-workout, scanning the waiting room until he found her. And then he was there, solid and real. And she fell against him without meaning to, without permission. And he caught her. I've got you, he said into her hair. I'm here. She told him everything in broken fragments. The collapsed lung, the trial drugs, the number that might as well have been 1,000,000 for all the chance she had of reaching it. Ethan listened without interrupting, one hand steady on her back, letting her words pour out until there were none left. Let me take care of it, he said when she finally went quiet. I can't let you do that. Maya, you don't understand. She pulled back to look at him. If you do this, if you pay for her treatment, what are we? What does that make us? Does it matter? Yes. The word came out fierce. It matters. Because I need to know if you're here because you care about me, or because I'm some broken thing you want to fix. Some project that makes you feel like you matter again. She watched him absorb the blow, saw the words land. His jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. That's not fair. Maybe not, but I need to know it's true. Maya's hands were shaking. I need to know that this thing between us, whatever it is real. Not just you trying to save someone so you can feel saved yourself. And if I pay for the treatment, you'll never believe it's real. His voice was hollow. You'll always wonder if you're just a tax write-off with a pretty voice. Yes. They stared at each other in the harsh hospital light, the truth ugly and unavoidable between them. So, what do you want me to do? Ethan asked finally. Watch you destroy yourself trying to save her? Watch you sing in the cold until you get pneumonia? Watch you work yourself to death for a number you'll never reach in time? Maya's voice broke. I don't know. I don't know what I want anymore. I think you do. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. I think you want to push me away, because that's safer than letting me in. Because if you let me help, you'll have to admit you need someone. And you've spent so long being strong for everyone else that you don't know how to let someone be strong for you. The words hit like water on a bruise, painful and cleansing at once. Maya opened her mouth to argue, to defend herself, but nothing came out, because he was right. She'd been alone for so long, carrying everything on her own back, that the idea of setting it down felt like giving up, like failure. I'm scared, she whispered finally, the most honest thing she'd said in weeks. I know. Ethan took her hands, and his were shaking too. I'm scared too, because I'm falling for you, Maya. Hard and fast and in ways I didn't think I could feel anymore. And I don't know how to do that without wanting to fix everything for you. Without wanting to take away every hurt and every burden until you can just breathe. That's not love, Maya said, tears streaming now. That's rescue. Then teach me the difference. His voice cracked on the words. Please, because I don't want to lose you. But I don't know how to stand here and do nothing when I could help. When I have the means to help, and you're suffering and... He stopped, breathing hard. Tell me what to do. Tell me how to love you the right way. Maya looked at him, really looked, and saw past the expensive clothes and the careful control to the man underneath. Lonely and lost and trying so hard to matter to someone. To her. And she understood finally what she'd been too afraid to see. That he needed her too. Not to fix or to save, but to see him. To pull him out of the cold, isolated place he'd built for himself. Brick by careful brick. I don't know, she admitted. I don't know how to do this either. Then maybe we figure it out together. It was a question, not a demand. An offering, not a rescue. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the choice pressing down on her. She could walk away now, protect herself, keep her pride intact and her heart safe. Or she could take the terrifying step of trusting someone, of believing that accepting help didn't make her weak, that letting herself be loved didn't mean losing herself. Okay, she breathed. Okay. They sat in the hospital cafeteria, coffee going cold between them, and talked for 3 hours straight. Not about money or treatment plans or logistics. Those could wait. Instead, they talked about fear. Ethan told her about his father, who died when Ethan was 23, drowning in medical debt from a cancer that took him slowly, painfully. How Ethan had built his company in a fury of grief and determination, swearing he'd never be helpless like that again. Never watch someone he loved suffer because of something as stupid and arbitrary as money. Every success felt like revenge, he said, hands wrapped around his mug. Every store that opened, every employee I could pay a living wage, every time I proved the system could be different, it was me saying fuck you to the universe that took him. That made us choose between keeping him alive and keeping our house. Did it work? Maya asked. Did it make you feel better? No. The word was raw. It just made me successful. Which turns out to be a completely different thing than happy, or whole, or any of the things I thought it would make me. He looked up at her. I haven't felt whole in 15 years. Not until I heard you singing in the cold, and remembered what it felt like to care about something beyond the next quarter's earnings. Maya reached across the table, took his hand. I'm not your redemption, Ethan. I can't fix what's broken in you. I know. He turned his palm up, threading their fingers together. But maybe you could just be with me while I try to fix it myself. She nodded, throat too tight to speak. Then it was her turn. She told him about the guilt, about how her mother had sacrificed everything to raise her alone after her father left, working those 3 jobs, going without so Maya could have music lessons and good schools and a chance at something better. How when her mother got sick, it had felt almost like fate, like the universe collecting on a debt Maya had always known she'd have to pay. I kept thinking, this is the bill coming due, Maya said. For every opportunity she gave me, every sacrifice she made. And if I couldn't pay it, if I couldn't save her after everything she did to save me, then what was it all for? What was I for? You don't owe your existence to anyone, Ethan said firmly. Not even her. Especially not her. You think that's what she wants? For you to destroy yourself as payment for her love? I don't know what else to do with it. Maya was crying again, but softly now, the tears almost gentle. I don't know how to be loved without earning it, without being enough. You're already enough. Ethan moved around the table, pulled his chair next to hers, wrapped his arm around her shoulders. You were enough the moment you were born. Everything else is just extra, Grace notes. Maya turned her face into his shoulder and let herself cry. Really cry. The kind of weeping that comes from somewhere deep and ancient, releasing pressure that's built up over years. And Ethan held her through it, solid and present, not trying to fix or stop it, just bearing witness to her pain. When she finally quieted, exhausted and emptied, he spoke again. I want to pay for your mother's treatment, he said carefully. Not as charity, not as rescue, but as an investment in the future. What future? Ours. He pulled back to look at her. I'm not doing this to make you grateful or obligated or to buy your affection. I'm doing this because I care about you, and people who care about each other help when they can. That's what this is, helping. Not saving, not fixing. Just one person with resources sharing them with another person who needs them. I can't pay you back. I'm not asking you to. He wiped a tear from her cheek with his thumb. But if you need to, if your pride requires it, then pay me back in something other than money. Sing for me. Cook for me, if you ever get to culinary school. Teach me how to see the world the way you see it, full of music and beauty even in the hard places. That's worth more to me than $80,000. That's worth everything. Maya studied his face, looking for the catch, the angle, the hidden cost. But all she saw was honesty and hope, and something that looked dangerously like love. Why? She whispered. Why are you doing this? Because watching you on that street corner, you reminded me that beauty still exists. That mattering isn't about balance sheets or market share or any of the bullshit I've spent 15 years chasing. His voice dropped. You reminded me what it feels like to be alive, Maya. To want something beyond success. To need something beyond achievement. And I know I'm probably moving too fast. And we barely know each other. And this violates every rule about boundaries and appropriate helping. But I don't care. I don't care because for the first time in longer than I can remember, I feel something. And I'm not ready to let that go. I'm falling for you too, Maya said, the admission feeling like stepping off a cliff. It terrifies me. You terrify me. Not because you're cruel, but because you're kind. And I don't know how to trust kindness from someone who has so much when I have so little. Then learn. He kissed her forehead, soft and careful. We'll learn together. You'll teach me how to help without trying to control, and I'll teach you how to accept help without feeling diminished. Deal? Deal. She managed a watery smile. You're going to have to be patient with me. I'm probably going to push you away 100 more times before I really believe this is real. I've got time. He kissed her forehead again, then her cheek, then paused with his lips hovering just above hers. May I? The fact that he asked, that he gave her the choice even now, made something in Maya's chest unfold like a flower toward light. Yes. The kiss was gentle, tentative, tasting of salt and coffee and promise. Not a claim or a conquest, but a question answered, a bridge built between two people who'd been alone too long. When they pulled apart, Maya was smiling despite the tears, despite the fear, despite everything. We should go talk to the doctors, Ethan said. Figure out next steps. Together? Together. They stood, still holding hands, and Maya felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Not the desperate, grasping kind that dies at the first obstacle, but the quiet, steady kind that builds foundations. The kind that whispers, Maybe. 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 As they walked back toward the ICU, Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, then silenced it. "Work?" Maya asked. "Always." He squeezed her hand. "But it can wait. You're more important." And Maya, who'd spent her entire life believing she had to earn every moment of attention, every scrap of care, let herself believe him. They met with doctors, signed paperwork, watched Ethan write a check that made Maya's hands shake even though she'd agreed to it. He handled everything with quiet efficiency, asking the right questions, pushing back when something didn't make sense, making sure Maya understood every option and choice. "She's your mother," he reminded her when the oncologist started directing all his answers to Ethan. "Talk to her, not me." It was a small thing, but it mattered. It meant he saw her not as someone to be managed or directed, but as a partner, an equal. When it was done, when the treatment was scheduled and the financial arrangements made, they went back to her mother's room. She was awake now, oxygen mask off, looking frail but alert. "Mama," Maya said, pulling up a chair. "This is Ethan." Her mother's eyes sharpened, taking him in with the assessing gaze of someone who'd learned to read people fast and accurately. "The man from the street," she said, not a question. "You told her?" Ethan looked surprised. "I tell her everything." Maya took her mother's hand. "Mama, he's going to help with the treatment costs." She watched her mother's face, waiting for pride or protest, but instead saw something softer. Understanding, maybe. Or just exhaustion finally winning over stubbornness. "That's a lot of money," her mother said directly to Ethan. "It is," he agreed. "But I have a lot of money, and your daughter has given me something more valuable." "What's that?" "A reason to spend it on something that matters." Her mother was quiet for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You hurt her, and sick as I am, I will find a way to make you regret it." "Mama!" Maya was mortified. But Ethan laughed, a real laugh that lit up his whole face. "That's fair. I'd expect nothing less." "Good." Her mother closed her eyes, already fading. "Now both of you go home. Get some rest. I'm not going anywhere." Outside, in the parking lot, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of winter rose and gold. "Thank you," Maya said, "for everything. For..." She gestured helplessly, unable to encompass everything she was feeling. "You don't have to thank me." Ethan pulled her close. "This is what people do when they care about each other. I'm not used to it. I know. But you will be." He kissed the top of her head. "I promise you will be." And standing there in the cold, wrapped in his arms, Maya let herself believe in futures she'd been too afraid to imagine. Let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she could have both. Her mother's recovery, and this strange, unexpected love that had found her in the cold. The treatment began on a Monday morning in late January, the kind of bitter cold that turned Chicago into a study in gray and white. Maya sat beside her mother's hospital bed, watching the IV drip poison and hope in equal measure into her veins, while Ethan worked quietly in the corner, laptop open but attention divided between spreadsheets and the two women in the room. He'd been there every day for 2 weeks, showing up with coffee and pastries from the Polish bakery her mother loved, sitting through chemo sessions with the same steady presence he brought to everything else. Not hovering, not managing, just there. A constant when everything else felt like shifting sand. Maya's mother tolerated his presence with the grudging acceptance of someone who'd learned that pride was a luxury she could no longer afford. But Maya watched her softening, saw the way she'd started asking Ethan questions about his business, offering opinions on his choices with the frankness of someone who had nothing to lose. "You pay your people too much," her mother said one afternoon, after Ethan had explained his wage structure. "How can I pay people too much?" He looked genuinely curious. "Your competitors will undercut you, drive you out. Let them try." There was steel beneath the calm. "I'd rather run an ethical business that barely survives than a profitable one built on exploitation." Her mother studied him for a long moment. "You really believe that?" "I do." "Then you're either a saint or a fool." "Probably a fool," Ethan admitted with a smile. "But I sleep better this way." Maya's mother had laughed. A real laugh, the first Maya had heard in months, and something in the room shifted. Permission granted, blessing given. But it was Maya's relationship with Ethan that was being tested now, in ways neither of them had anticipated. The money had changed things, no matter how carefully they tried to pretend it hadn't. Maya felt it in the way she hesitated before making decisions, wondering if she was being influenced by obligation. Felt it when Ethan suggested dinner at nice restaurants, and she had to swallow her discomfort about the cost, remind herself that he'd offered, that saying yes wasn't taking advantage. "Talk to me," Ethan said one night as they sat in his car outside her apartment. He'd driven her home from the hospital, as he did most nights now. "You've been quiet all week." "I'm just tired." "Maya." His voice was gentle but firm. "Don't do that. Don't retreat into polite dishonesty. Not with me." She turned to look at him, at this man who'd inserted himself into her life with such startling completeness. In the dashboard light, his face was all shadows and angles, beautiful and remote, and somehow still hers. "I don't know how to be with you," she admitted. "I don't know the rules. When you pay for dinner, is that a date or charity? When you spend your evenings at the hospital, is that love or duty? When you hold me, is it because you want to, or because you think I need it? Can it be both?" Ethan reached for her hand. Want and need aren't mutually exclusive, but they should be. Maya pulled away, hating herself for it but unable to stop. "I should want to be with you because of who you are, not because of what you can do for me. And you should want to be with me for the same reason. But how do we know? How do we ever know the difference when money is sitting between us like a third person in every conversation?" "So what are you saying?" His voice had gone careful, controlled. "That we should end this? That the money has poisoned everything beyond repair?" "I don't know." Maya pressed her palms against her eyes. "Maybe. Or maybe we need to, I don't know, establish boundaries, rules. Something that makes this feel less like I'm a kept woman and more like an equal partner." "You are an equal partner." "Am I?" She dropped her hands, looked at him directly. "Because it doesn't feel that way. It feels like you're the hero and I'm the damsel, and I hate that. I hate feeling grateful all the time. I hate that I can't pay for coffee without calculating how many hours I'd need to work to afford it while you don't even look at prices. I hate that your help saved my mother, but also made me feel small." The words landed hard between them, heavy with truth neither wanted to acknowledge. "I never meant to make you feel small," Ethan said quietly. "That's the last thing I wanted." "I know, but intent doesn't change impact." Maya took a shaky breath. I think I need to contribute something to the relationship, something that's mine, that I bring, that makes me feel like I'm not just taking all the time." "You give me everything," Ethan said, and there was pain in his voice now. "You give me music and honesty and a reason to care about something beyond quarterly reports. You give me yourself, Maya, your time, your attention, your heart. How is that not enough?" "Because it doesn't cost me anything," she tried to explain. "Love should be free, but it shouldn't be easy." And right now, everything feels too easy for you and too hard for me. And I don't know how to balance that." They sat in silence for a long moment, both staring through the windshield at her building. A walk-up in a neighborhood that was trying to be gentrified, but couldn't quite afford it yet. "What if we started over?" Ethan said finally. "What?" "Not completely, but what if we reset some things? I'll stop paying for everything. We'll split costs on dates or take turns or, I don't know. We'll figure out what works. And the money I already spent on your mother's treatment, we'll treat that as a loan if you need to. You can pay me back over time, whatever amount feels right, or you can pay it forward somehow. Whatever makes you feel like an equal partner instead of a charity case." "You don't have to do that." "I know I don't have to." He turned to face her fully. "But if it's what you need to feel comfortable in this relationship, then it's what I want to do. Because I'm not interested in being your benefactor, Maya. I'm interested in being your partner, your lover. Maybe eventually something more. But only if you can see me as something other than a checkbook with nice shoes." Despite everything, Maya felt a smile tug at her lips. "They are very nice shoes." "They're Berlutti's," he said seriously. "They cost more than most people's rent, which is obscene, and I only bought them because some business magazine said they projected authority. I hate them. They give me blisters." "Really? Really?" He reached for her hand again, and this time she let him take it. "I'm just a person, Maya. A deeply flawed person who spent 15 years building walls out of money and success because I didn't know how else to feel safe. You're teaching me a different way, a better way. But I'm still learning, and I'm going to mess up, and I'm going to accidentally make you feel small or obligated or less than, and when I do that, I need you to tell me. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." "I will," Maya promised. "And you have to tell me when I'm being too proud or too stubborn or pushing you away because I'm scared. Deal?" He squeezed her hand. "We'll fumble through this together. Make it up as we go. There's no rule book for this anyway." "For what?" "For falling in love across economic chasms while navigating serious illness and childhood trauma." His mouth quirked. "I checked. Hallmark doesn't make a card." Maya laughed, the tension breaking like fever. "They really should. Untapped market. Right?" He pulled her closer, and she went willingly, tucking herself against his chest and breathing in the scent of him. Expensive cologne, and underneath it, just him. Just Ethan. "We'll figure this out," he said into her hair. "I promise." "Okay." Maya tilted her face up, found his mouth with hers. The kiss was different this time, not tentative or questioning, but claiming. A promise made physical. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she said, "Take me upstairs." "Maya." "I want to." She held his gaze. "Not because I owe you, not because I'm grateful, but because I want you, and I'm tired of letting fear make my decisions." "Are you sure?" "Yes." She kissed him again, harder. "I'm sure." They made it to her apartment in a blur of stairs and fumbling keys and breathless laughter when she dropped them twice. Inside, the space was tiny, a studio with a kitchenette and a bathroom she could barely turn around in, but it was hers, and bringing him here felt significant, like letting him see the truth of her life, not just the carefully curated version. "It's small," she said unnecessarily. "It's perfect." Ethan looked around with genuine interest. At the herb garden on the windowsill, the guitar in the corner, the photographs of her mother covering one wall like a shrine. "It's you." And then they were kissing again, and nothing else mattered except the feeling of his hands on her skin, the weight of him pressing her back against the door, the way he whispered her name like a prayer. They moved to the bed, just a mattress on a frame she'd found on Craigslist, and undressed each other slowly, carefully, learning the topography of each other's bodies. Ethan traced the hollow of her throat, the curve of her hip, the scar on her knee from falling off her bike at 7. Maya mapped the planes of his chest, the surprising softness of his stomach, the tension he carried in his shoulders. "You're beautiful," he said, and meant it. "So are you," she replied, and meant it more. When they finally came together, it felt like coming home, not to a place, but to a person, to understanding, to being known and seen and chosen anyway. After, they lay tangled in her sheets, the city sounds filtering through the window, sirens and car horns, and someone's music playing too loud. Ethan drew patterns on her shoulder, abstract and aimless. "I love you," he said quietly. Not a question, not a demand, just a fact, offered freely. Maya turned to look at him, at this man who'd walked into her life through the cold and refused to leave even when she'd pushed him away. "I love you too," she said. "I'm terrified, but I love you too." "Good." He kissed her forehead. "Terror means it matters." They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other in her too small bed, while Chicago hummed its night songs beyond the window, and the future waited, unknowable, but somehow less frightening than it had been before. Spring came to Chicago like a promise kept. Slowly, then all at once. The snow melted into gray slush, then into memory. Trees along Michigan Avenue budded green. The air lost its knife edge and turned soft, almost gentle, carrying the scent of Lake Michigan and possibility. Maya's mother finished her last round of treatment on a Tuesday in late March. The doctors used words like remission and promising results, with cautious optimism, as if afraid to jinx it by speaking too confidently. But her mother's eyes were brighter, her smile less fragile, and she'd gained back 15 of the 30 pounds she'd lost. "I want to go home," she'd said that day, and Maya had cried with relief, because home meant future. Home meant hope. They'd helped her mother move back into her apartment in Bridgeport, Ethan hiring professional cleaners and stocking her kitchen while pretending he hadn't. Maya arranging her medications and making enough food to last a week. Her mother had fussed and protested, and finally just hugged them both, hard, before shooing them out so she could rest. "She's going to be okay," Ethan said in the car, and it wasn't a question anymore. "She's going to be okay," Maya agreed, and let herself believe it. Things had shifted between her and Ethan over the past months. Not dramatically, but fundamentally. They'd learned each other's rhythms, the quiet language of partnership. He'd stopped trying to fix everything, learned to ask, "What do you need?" instead of assuming. She'd stopped flinching at his generosity, learned that accepting help wasn't surrender, but trust. They split restaurant bills now, trading off who paid, and Maya had started cooking for him in his penthouse apartment, elaborate meals that let her practice techniques she'd been researching, planning for the culinary school she'd been accepted to for the fall. Ethan ate everything she made with genuine appreciation, even the disasters, and washed dishes without being asked. "You know you have a dishwasher," she'd pointed out once. "I know," he'd said, elbow deep in suds. "But this feels more honest, more real." She'd understood exactly what he meant. Maya still sang, but differently now. Not desperately on street corners, though she occasionally set up on Michigan Avenue for the pure joy of it. Instead, she'd started performing at small venues around the city, coffee shops and wine bars and the kind of intimate spaces where people actually listened. Ethan came to every show, sitting in the back with terrible wine and a smile that made her forget her lyrics. She was building something, not just a relationship, but a life. The kind she'd been too exhausted to imagine 6 months ago. It was a Saturday in early April when Ethan took her back to the Art Institute. They'd been several times since that first visit, but today felt different. He was nervous. She could tell by the way he kept touching his pocket, the way he steered her deliberately through the galleries toward a specific room. The Hopper painting, the woman alone in the window, was still there, unchanged. But Maya had changed. When she looked at it now, she didn't see isolation. She saw someone waiting, someone about to be found. "You remember what I told you?" Ethan asked, standing beside her. "About my mother bringing me here, making me tell stories about the paintings?" "Every Sunday," Maya said. "You hated it at the time." "I called her last week." His voice was quiet. "First real conversation we've had in years. Told her about you. About how you made me remember why any of this mattered." "What did she say?" "She said she wants to meet you. Said any woman who could make me feel things again must be remarkable." He turned to face her fully. "But before we do that, before we take that step, I need to ask you something." Maya's heart kicked up, sensing the shape of what was coming. "I know it's fast," Ethan continued. "I know we're still figuring things out, still learning how to be together across all the ways we're different. But I also know that I don't want to figure it out with anyone else. That every morning I wake up grateful you let me into your life, and every night I fall asleep already looking forward to tomorrow because you're in it." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small velvet box, and Maya's breath caught. "I'm not asking you to marry me," he said quickly. "Not yet. I know that's too much, too soon. But I'm asking you to consider a future where that's possible. Where we build something together. Not my life or your life, but ours." He opened the box. Inside was a ring. Simple, elegant. A single diamond that caught the light and threw it back in fractured colors. "This is a promise," Ethan said. "A promise that I'm in this. That I'm not going anywhere. That when you're ready, whether that's 6 months or 6 years, I'll ask you properly. But for now, I just need you to know. You're it for me, Maya Chen. You're the person I want to build a life with." Maya looked at the ring, then at him, and felt her eyes filling with tears that were equal parts joy and terror, and absolute certainty. "I'm still going to mess this up," she warned. "I'm still going to push you away sometimes. Still going to struggle with accepting help. Still going to wake up some mornings convinced this can't be real. I know." He smiled. "And I'm still going to try to fix things I should leave alone. Still going to work too much. Still going to buy ridiculously expensive shoes that give me blisters. Then we're both disasters. Perfect disasters," he corrected. "Together." Maya held out her hand, watched him slide the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. He'd probably had it sized based on the circumference of her guitar calluses, or some other careful observation she'd never noticed him making. "Yes," she said. "To the promise. To the future. To all of it." He kissed her there in front of the Hopper painting, and Maya thought about that woman in the window, waiting alone. Thought about how she'd been that woman 6 months ago. Isolated, exhausted, singing in the cold just to survive. But she wasn't alone anymore. They left the museum hand in hand, stepping out into an April afternoon that smelled like rain and rebirth. The city spread before them, the same Chicago Maya had always known, but somehow different now. Gentler, more forgiving. "Where to?" Ethan asked. "Stella's," Maya decided. "I want honestly terrible meatloaf and coffee that's good." "Perfect." They walked, and Maya thought about how much had changed since that Christmas Eve, when she'd stood on Michigan Avenue, singing for strangers, not knowing her life was about to split open and remake itself. Thought about her mother, healthy and home. About culinary school starting in the fall. About the ring on her finger, and the man beside her, and the future unfolding like origami in reverse, expanding into shapes she'd never imagined. At Stella's, they took their usual booth by the window. The diner hadn't changed. Same cracked vinyl seats, same fluorescent lights, same menu that hadn't been updated since 1987. But sitting across from Ethan, watching him order coffee he didn't need just to stay longer, Maya felt the profound gratitude of someone who'd been saved not by money or grand gestures, but by being seen, being chosen, being loved exactly as she was. "What are you thinking?" Ethan asked, catching her expression. "That I'm happy," Maya said simply. "That for the first time in longer than I can remember, I'm just happy." He reached across the table, took her hand, ran his thumb over the promise ring. "Good. That's all I ever wanted." Outside, Chicago moved at its usual frantic pace, people rushing somewhere, always somewhere, caught in the machinery of ambition and survival. But inside Stella's, time moved differently. Slower, more honestly. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "Feeling good today. Made it to the corner store and back. Small victories." She showed Ethan, and they smiled at each other. The smile of people who understood that small victories were actually the biggest ones. That survival wasn't dramatic, but daily. That love wasn't grand gestures, but showing up, again and again, in all the quiet ways that mattered. "I need to tell you something," Maya said, suddenly serious. "Okay. I'm paying you back for the treatment. Not all at once. It'll take years, probably. But I need to. Not because I don't appreciate it, but because I need to know I can. That I'm strong enough, capable enough, to carry my own weight." She waited for him to argue, to tell her it wasn't necessary, but instead he just nodded. "Okay, whatever you need." "Just like that?" "Just like that." He squeezed her hand. "Your terms, your timeline. I trust you." And Maya realized that was the gift he'd given her all along. Not money or security or rescue, but trust. Trust that she knew herself, knew her limits, knew what she needed. Trust that she was strong enough to accept help without being diminished by it. "I love you," she said. "I love you too." Stella came by with their coffee, rolling her eyes at their clasped hands in obvious affection. "You two are bad for business. All this mooning, nobody else wants to sit near you." "Sorry, Stella," Maya said, not sorry at all. "Don't apologize, just tip well." But she was smiling as she walked away, and Maya caught her wiping her eyes with the corner of her apron. They stayed until the dinner rush started, then walked out into the spring evening. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, and somewhere in the distance, Maya heard music. A street performer, maybe, or just a car radio turned up loud. "Want to walk for a while?" Ethan asked. "Always." They headed toward the lake, taking the long way through neighborhoods that were just waking up to the season, window boxes filling with flowers, sidewalk cafes reopening, children playing in parks that had been frozen and empty just weeks ago. At the lakefront, they found a bench and sat, watching the water turn dark as the light faded. Sailboats dotted the horizon, white triangles against deepening blue. Joggers passed, and dogs, and couples like them. People who'd found each other in a city of 3 million and decided to hold on. "Tell me something," Maya said. "Something I don't know yet." Ethan thought for a moment. "I'm terrified I'm going to wake up and this will all have been a dream. That I'll be back in my empty apartment, working 18-hour days, measuring my worth in quarterly reports and stock prices. It's not a dream. I know, but sometimes the good things are harder to believe than the bad ones." Maya understood that more than she could say. "Tell me something else, something hopeful." "I think..." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I think we're going to be okay. Not perfect, not easy, but okay." Better than okay, actually. I think we're going to build something real together. Something that matters. I think so too. They sat until the stars came out, faint against the city's light pollution, but visible if you knew where to look. And Maya thought about Christmas Eve, about standing in the cold and singing for her life, not knowing that someone was listening, not knowing that being seen would change everything. But that was the thing about transformation. It never announced itself, never came with trumpets or warning. It arrived quietly, in a single moment of connection, and then it grew, slowly, into something you couldn't imagine living without. Ready? Ethan asked eventually. For what? Everything. He stood, pulled her up. Ready for everything? Maya looked at him. This man who'd found her in the cold and refused to let her face it alone, and felt the future spreading out before them like music, complex and beautiful, and entirely theirs to compose. Yes, she said, and meant it with every part of herself. I'm ready. They walked home through the Chicago night, the promise ring catching streetlight and turning it to fire. Two people who'd learned that sometimes the greatest courage wasn't surviving alone, but letting yourself be found. If this story touched you, leave your rating from 0 to 10 in the comments and subscribe for the next journey.